hello, Ellen.
Well, hello, Trevor.
Here we are again, back at the table for another amazing, fantastic, and what I hope will be truly tasty episode of Yard to Table.
Oh, I mean, how could it not be?
Season
I
two.
know who the guest is. So
I also know who the guest is. We both know, but no one else knows right now.
No one does.
Not a single person out there listening knows who this is.
That's true.
Unless they look at the show notes or the title of the episode. Other than that, nobody has any idea.
As our daughter would say, dang it.
Yeah, that's true. That is a problem. Season 2
underway.
Yes. So another wonderful episode in season 2. And this one I am very excited about.
Me too.
Because as it becomes spring and we think about all of the wonderful things in our yard and the amazing meals that we'll have at the table, I think about outside.
Yes.
And parties.
Parties and spending good times with friends and family. And that involves delicious food and beverages.
Funny enough.
Yes.
Our guest today hits every single one of those parts.
It's kind of amazing.
Friend.
Yes.
Neighbor.
Yes.
Makes amazing food.
Yes.
Amazing drinks.
Yes.
All those things.
All of those things.
Combined.
Yes.
It's like, for those of a certain age, a fun Voltron that all comes together into one amazing person.
There's really only a certain
for this audience,
group.
It's a very small niche.
We might have a sweet
that's
spot
going to remember those
with
cartoons.
The people who are listening.
You guys can look it up on the internet.
Yeah, you might have it. But
you can figure it out.
This is the time of year. It's warming up here in New England. It's beautiful. We're super excited, of course, to be back for the podcast, but we're super excited to start thinking about these amazing occasions we're going to have outside.
Yeah, all the good stuff that we're going to do coming up. And speaking of amazing, our guest today.
Tell us more about our guest.
I shall. Thank you, Ellen.
Trevor Crafts.
This person's a lot like us, in a way.
I can't wait to share sort of the origin story.
It's going to be fun.
Yes.
So our guest has spent time in the world of entertainment and is also super comfortable in a yard growing, but also at the table serving delicious meals.
I've had some of his meals. They are delicious.
I have had recently, and they're wonderful. I think our guest is a little bit more on the table side than the yard side, but definitely does a little bit of both. Our guest creates delicious and incredibly interesting Czech-style beers in his brewery and tap room in Bridgeport, Berlinetta Brewing. Now, Berlinetta, it's a family business, something we know an awful lot about.
We love a family business.
We do love a family business. So our guest, along with his brother, opened Berlinetta in 2021. Now, their goal was, and still is, to bring fresh, high-quality beers to Fairfield County and beyond, with a focus on really classic European styles. Our friend, our guest, was born and raised in Connecticut. This master brewer developed a love and an admiration for classic Czech-style beers during his many trips there with
my good friend, his wife, Olga, who I adore.
The most wonderful. And she's a native, obviously, of Czech Republic. Now, Berlinetta offers carefully crafted, easy drinking beers in a warm and inspiring space, which we both can personally vouch for. It is the coolest tap room, period.
It is I think the first time we visited, we said this space is way cooler than we ever could be.
That is 100% true. There's no way we could be even remotely that cool.
And yet friendly and welcoming at the same time.
That's correct. If you're cool, you can go. If you're not cool, you can still go.
We go,
and
have
we're
a great
time. Please welcome to the table our good friend, our neighbor, the guy who's in charge of all the awesome things to drink, Ruggiero.
Yay!
Hello, sir.
Hello. Thank you, guys. You really made me sound pretty good. I appreciate it.
We do that.
Because you are.
We do that. It's not hard. It's really not hard.
I just
basically read a history of you, which we know a good bit about because we are very close friends and very close neighbors.
We talk a lot on this podcast about moving to this town of Weston and the incredible people that we've gotten to know. And let's talk about how we met. It was literally, this comes back time and time again.
Pretty much every time. It was in our yard.
We met in a yard.
In our yard. Yeah. We met Olga first. and Olga brought your amazing kiddo, and
let's talk about what it was too.
Oh, it was an open porch.
It was an open porch event.
Yeah,
that's right.
Which you did not attend, by the way.
I think you
was that during COVID.
Oh, it was.
It was. Yeah, towards the end of that.
Yeah, I probably had COVID.
It did happen. It
God,
did.
I hope
Unfortunately,
not.
it did happen. But it's funny because we had Olga come and literally Rich and the family live walking distance from our house.
Up the dirt road.
Up the dirt road. Not that far from where Phoebe's farm was. And we had a wonderful time hanging out. And for quite a while, Ellen would tell me, you've got to meet Rich. Because you and I hadn't met for a while. It took I think a good chunk of time.
As it happens.
But then we hit it off. You're awesome. And it was a lot of fun. And the rest is history. Many dinners, many events, many fun hangouts at Stonebrook. Later, here we are.
Yeah, but Rich, you guys live in the woods, right? I mean, you...
Pretty woodsy.
But that's something you're used to, right? Growing up in Reading, Connecticut, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I'll pick the woods over anything every day.
I did mention that you and we are all similar in entertainment. Tell me a little bit about where you started and how you ended up with Berlinetta.
Like going all the way back?
Give me day one.
Yeah, so
Rich was born.
Right.
It's a 9-hour podcast. So
9 pounds,
were you
8
born
ounces.
in Reading?
There you go.
Were you born in Reading?
Danbury Hospital. We lived in Bethel at that
Bethel.
time.
Okay.
Moved to Reading
All
when I
right.
was in maybe kindergarten.
Okay.
But yeah, I grew up in Reading, and then after college, moved to New York, as so many do.
As so many do.
And was in several bands and worked in production, like you guys, a lot of post-production and then more shooting. I mean, it's really all I did out of college was TV and commercials and stuff like that. And music, a lot of music.
Yeah, I was going to say, you worked in music a little bit too, right?
Yeah, I mean, being in bands and recording music for TV and stuff like that. And then I decided to not do that anymore.
We love a pivot.
And get into beer. It's a common pathway, I'd say. You start home brewing, and
I thought it was a common pathway from music to drinking.
Or just working in production
or just
and entertainment.
working in production to drinking. That's also a pathway.
Because that is true, 100%. Yeah.
Right. And when the beer is close to free, I mean, that really works out.
Totally. Yes, 100%. But you were a home brewer first, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Home brewer. And I've said it a million times, best hobby in the world. If you're looking for something to do and you like beer, get into home brewing. It's amazing. It hits on everything. It's like cooking, engineering, doing stuff with your hands, and the best homemade product. So it's awesome.
Now, did you have an elaborate setup for that?
No, it was pretty basic. It was a regular Coleman cooler, which was the mash tun, a turkey fryer.
What?
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even think I cooked a turkey, and I think I just used it for beer. And then a 5-gallon plastic
Probably
bucket.
safer.
For fermenting. I mean, it's really easy to make beer. You can go overboard with stainless steel everything and pumps and all this stuff, which at a bigger brewery you need, but on the small scale, it takes nothing. I think for $100 you could be making beer. It's so easy.
And so then you were like, this home brewing thing is not enough. I need to go bigger.
Was there something specific that really clicked with you that created something in your mind that was, this is now my passion outside of home brewing? Because a lot of us have hobbies and things that they do, but was something that you saw or you read that really was a key element?
I don't know if there was that one moment. I saw that on your shelf. That's what got me into brewing beer.
So
this book is what got me into brewing beer.
Friends,
tell us, Trevor, what is
I'm so
the
glad
book?
you have your own copy.
As I reached over, because I had yours for about a year. So there's a wonderful book that inspired Rich called Sacred and Herbal Healing Beers by Stephen Bunner.
That's a great
And
title.
it's a great title.
I have not read this yet, Rich.
I have read it. And
I know
it's
you have.
super interesting just about all the different places. So, I mean, this book was one that you found that was the beginning of a lot of things.
Absolutely. That book got me into brewing beer. I forget how I initially heard about it, but the premise of the book is that beer, well, it's been around forever, but beer was always many different things. Nowadays, it's kind of one thing. It's barley and hops as the two key components to beer. But beer used to be a lot of things, different sugar sources, many different bittering agents, herbal, different roots and leaves and whatever flowers. But then at a certain point, it kind of got narrowed down to just being barley and hops. And hops, like all the other herbs they talk about in this book, in herbal medicine, have a particular function. Like you're the medicine person in your village would give you hops for certain things, just like they'd give you other herbs for other things. And I really wanted to try to make these other types of beers to see how they tasted. And also, well, if a hopped beer makes you feel this way, what does the other beer with the herbs that are supposed to give you energy, what does that beer do?
Oh, I love it.
So both from a flavor and a feeling standpoint, I was so into this idea of trying to make some of these beers. So I'm like, I'm going to get a homebrew kit and I'm going to start making these beers. Very quickly discovered you can't find any of these herbs. Like unless you're scouring the Scottish Highlands on the coast, like, you're not going to find these things.
Sounds like a great trip.
It does sound like a great trip.
Let's do that, but go ahead.
I managed to make one beer using wormwood, which, is the thing in absinthe.
Yeah.
It was disgusting. It was so bitter, totally undrinkable.
I love the spirit, though. I love it.
I made some beers with maple sap from the trees around the house. That was pretty good.
Now you're talking my language.
But I basically got the homebrew kit and then just started making like a pale ale. Woohoo. And I was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Success.
I'm going to keep trying it. And then I just kept making regular beer. So here we are.
And how did you get from the brewing and the failed sacred beers to Berlinetta? You said, I'm going to do beer now. Was that like a decision point where it was just that? Like, I'm done with all this other stuff and now I'm just going to make beer?
Yeah, that was it. I mean, one particular project I was on, I was just like, I threw in my hat. I'm done. I've had enough.
Oh, we know those projects.
It was really a clean break.
Yeah.
And I just went full on into beer. Yep. That's it.
That was the pivot point.
I really don't do much video anymore besides the, for the business.
I have to say, and this is something that we've had other guests on the podcast too, that I find it so fascinating and so brave and so hard to take something that really well, production in your case, and you just push it aside and you start something that is so of a passion of yours, and it's really inspiring. And we hear these stories so much, and it's so much fun to know that there is a whole nother side of every person that you can really get into and find something wonderful that you're growing and you're making and you're creating. It's so much fun.
It's actually really interesting. I think we have had so many guests that have had this pivot moment. And I think there's a message in that about taking a turn when it's scary and difficult, but following something that you really love, that feeds your soul, that makes you happy, can be the right move to make. It can also be terrifying and maybe not successful, but if you don't try, that's what life's all about, right? So you made the pivot.
It's called a midlife crisis.
Well, there's
some people get like a Porsche or a Lambo. Some people buy a brewery and create something from nothing.
And what happened?
Depends on the person.
Your brother was like, yeah, me too. He's like, let's do it.
No, he's keeping a big foot in that other world still.
Yeah. You're the full in. But you said, let's do this together. Is that how that worked?
Yeah. I mean, any big undertaking like this, I think is easier with a partner, and to have a partner that you can like fully trust and you respect their sensibilities. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that definitely
family business
was a clear choice.
And it's also fun, right? I mean, sometimes in a family business,
Hold on. Wait 1 second. Go ahead. Continue. In a family business,
you can have moments of joy.
And period. End of sentence. And that's
There's never any disagreements.
Right. Good. I thought that's where this conversation was going. I was worried for a second, but no. Continue.
You find this with your brother, Chris? You're always on the same page?
100%. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
right. Okay, good.
That's
Perfect.
really
exactly the same person.
This is like Instagram versus reality.
Family businesses. Everybody's greatest idea on paper.
So why the Berlinetta, the name and the style of beer? Obviously, we gave away with talking about the fabulous Olga of the Czech Republic. But tell us a little bit about the journey to naming the beer and actually growing the business.
The name, the style of beer is a little more straightforward. The name is, I'm not going to say random, but it's a little further from being that direct. So there was a car, a Camaro Berlinetta.
Mm-hmm.
sweet 80s ride. My brother used to own one in navy blue.
Oh,
There's a Ferrari as well. They might still make it, but it was because of the Camaro. And I think a long time ago, Chris's wife, Emily, said, if I ever had a bar, I'm going to name it after your car, Berlinetta. That sounds like a good name for. And so we were thinking about names, and he mentioned that. I was like, yeah, you know what? It sounds right. It sounds, well, it's Italian. We're Italian. We like that. And we do these continental style beers, Berlin, even though it's more Czech than German, whatever, close enough. And it just kind of had the right ring to it.
Yeah, so, I love that. That's so cool. And the focus, was it really with Olga that you went to the Czech Republic and you honed in on the specific Czech style that you really loved?
Absolutely. I mean, if it was not for Olga, I would not be doing this because I really fell in love with beer.
Which is just the story of every wife's good influence.
Hope she's listening.
Yes,
True.
I'll send her the link.
Because I fell in love with beer being over there. I didn't come into craft beer like being a super big craft beer guy, like IPAs and all this stuff like that was huge in America. I mean, I always drank beer, but like we would just drink beer because it's there. But like in terms of like really appreciating beer, it was spending a lot of time there. So I fell in love with their beer. And that's when I was like, I want to make that beer.
Gotcha.
And also at the time when we were getting started, it was like a Czech Pilsner was like not really
very
a
rare.
thing.
Very rare.
Now they're everywhere. It's like a very popular style, like even Czech dark lagers, which we do. These things are very popular. But when we were starting, it's like the Czech Pilsner was not a big thing. But that's what I wanted to do.
So the real origin is Olga home brewing in the book to Berlinetta. I love it. That's really cool.
And actually, Olga bought the turkey deep fryer. So
there you go.
Thanks again, Olga.
There you go. Did she ever intend to use it to fry a turkey?
Well, she was intending for me to fry the turkey, probably, but we did use it to fry a turkey after I started making beer with it.
Okay. Well,
and then I upgraded. So
I just, because you do live deep in the woods, let's just retire. Is that retired? The turkey fryer, is that gone now?
I no longer fry turkeys.
Okay, good.
It's
Well,
good.
as your neighbor,
You can cook turkeys easier ways that are equally as good.
Yeah, exactly.
Agreed.
Oh, I was going to say, so what makes Berlinetta's approach different than other breweries in Connecticut? We've got quite a little brewery scene here in our state, right? So what's different or special about Berlinetta in comparison with your other competitors, I'll say?
Well, nowadays, a lot of places are starting to do these styles that were always our focus. So it seems like a little less differentiating now. But when we started, the idea was straightforward, like high quality focused beer that tastes like beer of a certain origin, this Central European flavor of beer. That's what we wanted to do. And not like being very particular, like we're going to be exclusively lager, like we'll make some pale ales and stuff like that. But we wanted to focus on these clean beer flavored beers from that part of the world. And this was like, I mean, we started basically in 2018 or 19. It just took forever to open because of COVID,
Right,
it
of
took
course.
almost 3 years to open.
Nothing gets in the way of a great space for people to meet than COVID. Or a film to come out in our
Also true.
world.
Yeah,
Yes.
also true.
Yes. Go.
Yeah, at that time it was IPAs, sours. That's what everybody was doing. Pastry stouts, beers made out of like Cocoa Krispies. Like the beer had gotten like so crazy, like so off the rails. I just kind of wanted to focus on the basics. It's weird to say these styles are trendy, but like the Czech dark lager is popping up everywhere now. Cool that people want to drink it, but I never would have guessed.
You had it. You were the OG.
Well, I mean, Czech Republic was the OG, but then Rich. Czech first, and then 100% Rich was literally the second one after the Czech Republic.
We mentioned this in your intro, but we know that you're a grower. You may have an amazing home garden. You're always creating and expanding your garden. I think you had an updated plan for this year. So I know ingredients, and obviously this book was so inspirational to you around trying different ingredients, making beer. So I know that's important to you. And I think that's one of the reasons we love your beer, and we just know your interest and heart that goes into it. So now with what you're making, you want to tell us a little about the ingredients that you use and how you select your ingredients and the different types of beer that you're making.
Yeah, I mean, the main thing for the beers that I make is I really don't think about cost of the ingredients at all.
That is a
Good
great
plan.
business model.
Yeah, you're like, oh, this guy's going to go broke. Right?
Gonna.
Which if you're like a very big brewery or even like a medium big brewery, you look at every penny because if you're making like, 50 barrel batches, which is 10 times bigger than I'm making, like these things add up more. For me, I just want to make the best possible tasting beer. So the malt that we use comes from Europe, and it's like almost twice as expensive as other stuff you can buy. But I'm not going to compromise on it to save a few bucks. I want it to be from Europe, because it's really good and it's true to style, but also because the beers I'm making are supposed to mimic those beers. So money is really not an issue. Same with the hops, and the yeast is kind of what it is.
Mm-hmm. I know your beers change seasonally, just like obviously things that we're growing are seasonal. So what flavors do you chase in the European style throughout the season here in Connecticut? And does Connecticut have any influence?
I think about what I would like to drink based on the weather. If it's hot, you probably don't want strong, dark beer, like 7-8%. But that's nice in the winter.
That's when we're coming to the tap room to get your Kolsch.
Yeah.
Kolsch is the summer. That's a summer goodness. Now, speaking of drinking beer.
Should we do it?
We should.
Do we have some beer?
We have some beautiful yellow labels from Berlinetta that are sitting right here.
And this is the signature beer.
This is the one, right?
The Pilsner, absolutely.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what you brought for us today.
This is the Pilsner. It's called the Velvet Pilsner. Does anyone know where that name comes from?
I don't. Tell me.
Well, it's a smooth beer, obviously.
Like velvet?
The Velvet Revolution was in Czech Republic, which is when they broke peacefully from communism. So it's a nod to Czech there as well.
I love it.
That's really cool.
It's a 5.5%, so a little stronger than a standard Czech beer. The way the Czechs do beers, by the way, is different than how we do it, because they primarily have pale lager, which is Pilsner. If you go to a place, and I'm talking more traditionally, like now you're going to find IPAs and stuff, but you would see a 10, 11, 12, maybe a 13 Plato, the little teeny circle above the number. Mm-hmm. And that refers to the starting gravity of the beer. Being that they're all pale lagers, they're going to be made out of pale malt and over there, Saaz hops. So what's differentiating those beers is the strength. So a 10 Plato would, on the lower end of the gravity, would ferment out to be about 4.5%, and then say 5%, 5.5%. So this 5.5% beer is stronger than like the standard Czech Pils. But for me, it wasn't so much about getting the alcohol higher as making it really smooth, and hence the velvet, and that extra malt just gives a lot of nice flavor.
Ooh. Are you ready?
Why are we still sitting here with no drinks?
Yeah, do it on the mic.
Yeah.
Let's hear it.
Oh, that sounds nice.
That's
Look at
a
that
good
nice sound. That's lovely.
Oh, thank you,
That's
my
one
friend.
ladies first.
Yes. Love it.
Here we go. Lovely. Lovely, lovely. So what should we, as we taste this beer, what should we notice first when we're tasting this beer or any beer?
Well, wait. Before we sip, I'm thinking of Olga. I think we have to say a certain toast, right?
Na zdraví.
Na zdraví. There you go. All right. So the question is, what should we first notice as we taste this beer or any other beer as you're tasting them? What are the things you want to know about this beer?
Well, for this beer in particular, and what I appreciate about well-made beers is the taste of malt, which too often gets forgotten about. It's like people are so focused on hops.
And I don't love a real hoppy beer.
Right.
That's not my style.
To me, it's about balance.
Right.
Like I do like hops, but I want to also taste the malt. So what you get in this beer is, without it being too heavy or sweet, you get a malt flavor. And then the hop bitterness comes next.
So for those who might not know the difference between hops and malt and how those work, where does malt come from?
This is amazing. Malt is a type of grass, right? Like wheat, or, so malt
that grows
is barley.
in a yard.
Right. So every time you mow your lawn, you're killing beer.
Terrible.
Oh, people are going to be calling in on that
That's
one.
why we have no mow May.
That's right.
Because of not
I
wanting
do
to kill beer.
no-mow
To save
year, a full year.
Yes,
you
I
should
know
see
you
my
do.
house.
We know we have. So it's save the pollinators and the beer.
And the beer.
Okay.
Right.
Keep going.
But in all seriousness, you don't have barley growing in your yard, but barley is a grass. It's a grain, and it's grown as, for beer and animal feed. And, some people will eat it, but it's not common. I mean, it's wheat and corn are typical grains, right? And then barley gets malted, which means they harvest it. You have the kernels, they get dried out, and, they're in storage, and then they soak them in water. They start to germinate because they think they're going to grow again in the earth. And as soon as that little endosperm starts coming out, they dry it again. So you're ceasing the growth of the kernel, the seed. And what's happened is now that little kernel is full of starch, which it needs to continue growing. So you've transformed it once. Now you have that malt. then you crack it and you steep it in hot water. And now the second transformation happens where that starch is converted to sugar at particular temperature. So it's amazing. It's grass that you then get like a very delicious sugar out of that you then ferment.
All right. So we talked about the malt. Let's talk about the hops for people who don't know.
Right. Hops, going back to our book here, Sacred and Herbal Healing Beers. Hops really got to be codified into what beer is around the 16th century or something. Right around when the German purity laws, Reinheitsgebot, came about, that beer could only be barley, hops, water, yeast. So a hop is a flowering plant, it's a vine. Actually, the reason our logo is a wolf is because the Latin name for hop is little wolf, because these plants grow very aggressively.
Cool. That's so cool. That's fun.
So it's a vine that produces these little beautiful cones. They look like green pine cones. Mm-hmm. And when you crush them, there's these oils inside that just smell amazing. Can't drink a lot of beer when you're doing a podcast.
Mental notes. Don't drink beer next time we record.
Yeah.
Pauses.
But it is delicious, by the way. It is delicious.
So you have these flowers, and the hops are doing a couple of things for the beers. They're balancing out that sweetness of the malt. If you made a beer that was just malt, it would not be very refreshing. It would just be too sweet. Like any chef would tell you, or any home cook, you need to balance flavors, right?
Mm-hmm. Very important.
So you're balancing the sugar with something bitter. Hops are also a preservative. So before refrigeration, beer would last a lot longer with the hops in them. They're just a natural, they have antimicrobial properties.
So a natural preservative.
Yeah. And then, and the flavor, beyond just the bitterness, there's also the flavor. And there's so many hops these days to give all sorts of crazy aromas and flavors.
Now, are hops, maybe I've read this, I don't know, there's so many headlines I read and then I don't read the article, so forgive me. Are hops in danger? Is there a hop shortage?
There was a surplus last year here.
Really?
Well, in certain areas. So like in Czech, for instance, I use Saaz hops a lot because I do Czech beers. Mm-hmm. The yields were down last year, and the alpha acids, which is all hops are rated based on alpha acid. It's basically how bitter they are. Mm-hmm. And you need to know that number when calculating how much to use in your batch. Mm-hmm. So the alpha acids were like crazy low. They're normally, Saaz is already a low acid hop, usually 3%, but they were like 1.7% last year. So it means you need to use a lot more. But in America, our yields were fine. So overall, hops are doing all right. I think it's a pretty hardy.
You said it grows prolifically. It's interesting too, because we follow the Connecticut Foraging Club, and they were just posting some photos around finding some wild hops out in the forest.
Oh, that's amazing.
Which is pretty cool.
Upon that.
I know. We'd love to see that. There's some good stuff.
Is hops something that you could grow if that was something you wanted to grow?
Yeah, I'm growing some in my house.
There you go. Of course you are.
Right. Like the amount I need, and then you need to like store them. It's kind of not practical for the amount of beer that I make, but I grow them because they're pretty, and I like hops. But it is a pretty thing to grow. If you want to cover a trellis or anything, it's really nice. Connecticut and New York actually used to be the biggest hop growing part of America.
Really?
But now it's the Pacific Northwest. Like that's where all the research and all the growing is done. Mm-hmm. There are some hop farms in Connecticut and New York. I know there's at least 2 in Connecticut, because it is the right latitude for growing hops. When you think about like Czech Republic and Connecticut, we're about the same latitude. Pacific Northwest, maybe a little more damp over there, but similar latitude. But sometime I think in the 19th century, there was a blight that took out the hops here. So then they shifted production over to the Pacific Northwest.
And it's been taking off.
Yeah, it's massive over there.
So Berlinetta's tap room is located in Bridgeport. It's hard to get a space off the ground. Without COVID, it's hard to open a business, tap room, anything like that. So why Bridgeport, and what it's meant for you to be in the city of Bridgeport?
We are in downtown Bridgeport. So when we signed our lease down there, my brother and I looked at properties from, I guess, as far west as Norwalk over to almost New Haven, and then north up to like Newtown. So, but ideally we wanted to be along the shoreline kind of 95 strip. We looked at like 50, 80 places, a lot of places.
That's a lot of places.
Yeah.
Commercial real estate tour.
And with a brewery, you're looking for, that's a tap room. You don't want it to be like in the middle of nowhere. But then you also have technical requirements, you're going to need a floor drain and you want your ceilings to be high enough and you probably want 3-phase power. So these like technical things you need. So it makes it tough. And we didn't really want to be like in an industrial park because we were not trying to be a production brewery. We wanted to be a tap room. So we looked at a lot of places, and the place we found in Bridgeport was just a beautiful spot. I mean, it's all windows, park across the street. We have bocce courts there. It's just a nice,
close to the train.
Nice storefront. We're close to the train. We said, hey, we're going to give it a shot. And so far, it's been good.
You know, I think it's so interesting because we talk a lot about community on the podcast, and we talk a lot about spaces, mostly yards. But what I think is fun is it is kind of your backyard a little bit in the brewery, where you have this park, you have this communal space.
Summer beer garden.
Yeah, where people come together. What is that like to help build community because of a place that you have created?
Well, it's kind of snowballed nicely in that we had the outdoor area, and then this organization called Skateport started doing these really fun roller skating things. And they planted a pollinator garden on 2 sides of the beer garden. So like beautiful flowers there. So things have come up a little bit around it, which is nice.
That's fun.
And you're bringing just this life fun to an area that it didn't have that before. So people you're a destination now to an area that didn't really have a destination focus. And how's the relationship been with Bridgeport in general? Have they been welcoming? I mean, because I know creating the beer garden was a dream, right? Was that like an easy process, or was that something that was it hard or came naturally to what you were wanting to do?
The city's been very nice to work with. When you're dealing with something like alcohol, neighbors in the city could make it impossible for you. You know, just to get a liquor license, it's multiple zoning hearings and all this stuff. Like anybody could say no and, you know, kind of like throw the whole thing off the rails. So the city has been great, like economic development, general like permitting and fire department, your basic stuff. Everybody's been really nice to work with. Yeah.
That's cool.
Because they were welcoming. If you try to open in a place that they feel like they got enough stuff like that, or they just, for whatever reason, don't want you there, it's so easy for them to make it impossible. But it was the opposite issue for us.
That's so great. Yeah. Because you were really bringing something new into that area that wasn't there before. And I think it's important to mention too, with your tap room and your background, music and the arts is a huge part of the tap room too. Do you want to tell us a little bit how you've merged those things together?
Yeah. I mean, the tap room, the brewery in general is really just a reflection of my brothers and my interests and sensibilities. So everything you see there, like the place kind of looks like my house or his house, you know, like it's
when you go to the tap room, I'm like, oh, I'm at Rich and Olga's house.
Yeah. Their other living room.
It's really, there's no like, you know, focus groups deciding what this place was like. It's just what we like. We got a lot of plants. We like plants. I like plants inside houses, outside houses, all over. A lot of music. My brother and I are both musicians. So we sell vinyl there. We also just like old school stuff. So we sell a lot of vinyl, like well-selected, nice condition, vintage vinyl. My brother is a master at finding this stuff. We have DJs come in that spin on this like really cool system. My brother built a lot of the amps. He builds tube amplifiers. So we have vacuum tube amps and cool old school turntables. And
a really cool, diverse group of DJs that come in. I mean, you really like hit.
Yeah, we get a whole range. So usually 2 days a week we have DJs and live music, maybe trying to do it more. I'd love to do it once a month. Right now we're doing it every 2 or 3 months.
And then food, you incorporate some food now into your offerings, or you have partnerships that
we do
highlight?
We have, because we do not have a kitchen, but the food that we prepare is very tasty. You guys have had it.
Trevor loves the pretzel.
The pretzels are amazing.
Literally the greatest pretzel I have ever had in my life.
And I like
a pretzel.
Yeah. You had it before I did. And then you're like, when I went over, you're like, we need to order that. I'm like, yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
And it is delicious.
We do, and it's unreal.
Those come from my guy, Stanley at Wake Up Coffee in Fairfield. He makes those just for us using the traditional Bavarian method, which is beyond just baking them. I don't want to give away all the secrets, but it's a traditional method of preparation for these things that make them so like chewy and kind of like crispy on the outside. And then of course we cover them in butter. So those pretzels are great. Then we have Zupardi's pizzas. Zupardi's from West Haven makes these 10-inch pies that they're frozen. You throw them in the oven. They come out amazing.
So it is a little Connecticut Czech Republic mashup.
Right. I mean, I'd like to keep this stuff kind of as local as we can. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. So obviously the arts are a huge part of your life and something that you're even extending into this phase of your career. There's a collaboration that you do every year in Bridgeport with the arts. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, we're involved with the Art Trail, which is a great thing the city does every year. There's multiple stops throughout the downtown and kind of spreading out from there. A big stop on the Art Trail is the American Fabrics Building,
which is incredible.
Really cool.
Yeah, very cool space.
I don't think if people know this either, how much public art is in Bridgeport between the murals and...
Oh, a ton.
It's gorgeous. And then you have this building, which is just filled with these incredible makers and artists.
Probably like 50 studios there. And a lot of the people that work at Berlinetta have studios there. So we have a very close connection with AmFab, American Fabrics. We often have our beer there when they do open studios. So we're pretty tight.
So your sister-in-law has a studio there?
Right. Emily has a studio there. And that's kind of how we got started with those guys a while ago. But yeah, we've been involved with it since we started. And like you were saying, Bridgeport has a ton of murals. I think they did like 25 in the last couple of years.
They're gorgeous, huge, beautiful. Just such an impact in that like urban landscape. It's gorgeous.
Right. There's like great artist housing downtown, really nice loft apartment buildings just for artists that are reasonably priced. It's kind of
That's incredible.
Right. Like a lot of places, maybe it's the way Williamsburg was like 25 years ago or something, right? But yeah, there's a lot of cool things going on there.
And what I think is always so interesting is, like we said, you're bringing all of this community together to create something that is new and it's unique to Berlinetta. Is so many people, even when we're there at the tap room, you know them, they're regulars, they're people that you see all the time and that come in and you can share the table with them and share their stories and know about them. And it's such a unique place.
It is Trevor's secret wish to be like Norm at Cheers. Maybe not going every day, but to go in and have someone say, "Hey, Trevor."
And I just realized a lot of those guys.
I just realized something, actually. I'm going to say I just realized something.
That is your secret dream.
It's not a secret. I say it all the time. It would be great, but I actually have it.
Yeah.
Because when I go to Berlinetta, Rich says, "Hey, Trevor." So I have it. You made my dreams come true. I just realized that. That's amazing.
It's good to have a friend that has a place like this. That's very good.
Tell us more about what do you see for the future of Berlinetta? Are there any new brews that are coming up other than the Kolsch, which I'll take all of because it's so amazing? Are there new
It's getting warmer.
That's correct. New beers that you're developing? Are there new flavors that you're coming together? Tell us more about the Berlinetta of the future.
Yeah, I'm always coming up with new beers. I do the kind of the core beers regularly. Like I always want to have Pilsner on tap. I do Volk, which is our Czech dark lager, often. I do the Kolsch often. The pale ale, like I was saying, I'm not exclusively lager. That's something that changes every time that I brew it, and we don't package or distribute it. It's only on tap at our place.
That's really important to note because you do, I want to talk about your distribution of it all, but you have specific beers that you only serve in the tap room that are delicious.
There's a number of those. And,
yeah.
And the pale ale, I mean, it's fun to it's a way to experiment with ingredients and combinations and stuff and techniques as well. Because beer is, when you're coming up with a beer, it's the things you use in it, but also how you use them, right? Mm-hmm. So the pale ales kind of keeps me in having a good time back there. And then it's a new thing to drink. So it's also more fun for me that way. It's always a clear beer though. A pale ale, I never got into hazy beer. So it's very hoppy, but it's, you'd say more of a West Coast kind of IPA, like a clear hoppy beer. We also just did a beer with Two Roads. That was very fun. We did a collaboration.
A collab.
Mm-hmm. That came on tap this past weekend.
Very cool.
It's a Munich lager, really tasty, like a little bit of an amber lager, kind of in between a Pilsner and a Vienna lager. That was really nice and very fun to, meet those guys and make some beer together.
That's really cool. You think about the whole beer world of brewers and other people. What's one surprising thing that everybody doesn't know about brewing? Like, what would be one thing that you could say about the brewing world that would really surprise people?
I think anybody that thought they would want to be a brewer and not realizing that it's 90% cleaning. You're basically a janitor,
A beer janitor.
and you're occasionally feel like a cook, but you're cleaning and sanitizing most of the time.
And we thank you for that, by the way.
And you don't mean just like from the beer, like from cleaning up the tap room.
Oh, we've seen his setup. You're talking about some real cleaning, right?
Oh yeah, with the most amazing chemicals though. I think when people are like, "What's your favorite thing in the brewery?" I'm like, the cleaning chemicals. These things are amazing. I mean, you clean off gunk like that. You could never get off in any traditional means, but the stuff we have, which you can't like buy in a store, you don't even need to scrub. You just basically spray it on, and
the German in me responds to that so strongly.
The German cleaner in you.
I love a clean.
yeah. So you're cleaning and then you're sanitizing. The last surface that touches the stainless steel before the beer, it can't be water. It needs to be sanitizer because water has bacteria in it.
So it's 90% cleaning, 10% experimentation and drinking.
Yeah.
How much is the drinking? Is that like 2% out of that 10%?
I try to keep those numbers a little higher.
That's what makes his beer so good.
And I think it's fun part because it's like we've had your beers at your house with other amazing dishes that you've made. You are a fantastic cook as well.
And we've brought things over from the garden, and Rich has
made them into magical strombolis and other things as we've brought him.
Well, that's the fun part. We share things. Like we got figs from your tree one year. We brought things over that you weren't growing, which is such the fun of our neighborhood in general. But yes.
Mm-hmm.
What is a great meal to pair with, since we're drinking it, the Velvet Pilsner? Like, what do you think is a great additional items to have with this
You're setting the
Wunderspiel?
table of an evening at the Ruggiero household.
I'm going to say grilled vegetables and meat. Love grilled vegetables as well. Beer and sausage is a classic combo, but
Naturally.
throw anything on the grill and it kind of like doubles its deliciousness.
Yes, agreed.
A little bit of char.
Fully agreed.
Throw some broccoli on the grill. It's amazing. And a little olive oil, always good. And plus it's grilling, you're outside drinking a beer. So beer and grilling to me is the best combination. I mean, beer, is also good with pizza. That's why so many places do pizza, but grilling that's
where it's at.
That's the best. Yeah.
I love that.
So we know that the tap room is in Bridgeport and everyone should go there. And now that it's getting warmer, the beer garden's opening up soon now.
We opened it last weekend. We have 2 really nice bocce courts, 60-foot
So
courts,
fun.
stone dust, really nice to play on.
So they're open all season through end of summer.
Yep, till it gets cold.
Amazing. Where do people purchase at a distributor of your beer?
Well, we are in fair amount of stores, especially in Fairfield County. We're throughout the state, but us being down here, and I think just people drinking more down here, more population. We're in a lot of stores down here. Probably, I'd say all of the big stores, anything above like a few thousand square feet, you know which ones they are. And then a lot of the nicer, smaller stores. So I think we're in a couple hundred stores. So you can look for the yellow can. That's the Pils. We're around there.
Look for the wolf and the yellow can.
And we're on tap at good restaurants. And
oh, that's okay.
Ton of different places.
That's great too. Yeah. Are you going to be in the new liquor store in Weston Center?
oh, is it reopening?
Yes, it
We were
is.
in the old store, so I hope so.
Yes, good. The journey of our little downtown and our small spaces of stores.
It's perfect. One day we'll have everything we need. As the last question, as we always do, what's growing in your yard?
The hops have been transplanted to go up the like fence posts and kind of archway going into this new garden I planted. So it'll be a little hoppy entranceway.
Love
Lovely.
it.
And then inside we have some red onions and some kale and zucchini, green beans, some multicolored beans,
The green.
Tricolor, yeah.
some rainbow chard, tomatoes, grape tomatoes.
Oh,
Because I read you can start those ones right in the ground kind
Really?
of later. So I'm trying it.
okay.
One of the things I like about gardening is it's just a big experiment. Like I've been
Yes.
doing this for like 10 years now and I'm like not that good at it, but every year you make a tiny little improvement, but it takes a whole another year before you can implement that change. So it's it's a real slow burn. But if you like tinkering with stuff, it's fun.
It is. Well, we agree.
I would like to say, I would be remiss, in fact, if I did not say,
Oh, I can't wait.
how are the chickens doing?
They're good.
Uh-huh.
So we're down to 6, but we're still getting 5 eggs a day. So I can't be mad.
Okay,
Plenty of
anyone
eggs.
that's listening does not see the eyeballs looking at me from both
Chickens.
Rich and
You know
Trevor
what I'm saying?
around the chickens.
I'm just saying, it's season 2 and we're still talking about chickens.
You won't regret it.
I keep hearing this. I will say our neighbor across the street on Newtown Turnpike, I dropped off some tulips today, and I have some for Olga today as well. And she texted me back and she said, I'm going to drop off some eggs. It's nice.
Especially when they're $13 a dozen.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So it changes the game on chickens.
It does.
Just have to build a coop like Rich built a coop for almost no dollars. And then you're in the
You're
black
both
right
good at
away
that.
on chickens.
You need to just come together and do it. And wait, what am I saying? We'll revisit it.
No, I like where you're going. Continue. Please continue. Please continue.
The ever ongoing chicken conversation.
And they eat all your scraps,
I
your
know.
food scraps.
Correct.
I
They
can give
do,
them my
Rich.
brewing grains, but I have way too many. So my grains go to our friend Tom down the street.
Tom Kubik.
We're thinking we're going to have Tom on the podcast.
You should.
Tom will be a guest.
He's amazing.
So talk about that, but just because that's fun, and we'll talk about it with Tom too. So he gets grain, right?
Yeah. So I bring the grains over after I brew in the back of my truck, and he has huge piles of really high quality compost.
Yes, he does.
And any gardener would tell you it's just about the dirt, right? Like how good is your compost?
Totally.
That's how good your food's going to be. And that's another thing that took me a long time to realize gardening. I was just throwing seeds in the ground for a while. I'm like, why do these plants? They're so tiny.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't good quality soil. So the grains go over to Tom, and then he mixes it with, he gets tree guys to drop off wood chips. He gets all the leftover stuff from the grocery store in town, like bread and fruit.
He's amazing.
Just all this free old junk, mixes it with his tractor. That ends up being what he grows. I mean, his vegetable garden is amazing because his compost is so good.
Bananas.
And that's what's in my garden now is his compost, which was my grain. So it's nice. It's a nice, cycle of life.
And again, this is one of the amazing things about our town. It's just people sharing, and I love that. And yes, Tom's garden is unbelievable.
So productive.
You drive
It's
up and
painful sometimes.
it is painful sometimes.
I'm like, what is what? I guess.
When I drop off the grains and it's summer, I come home with a shopping bag full of.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, always mushrooms because he's an amazing mushroom grower.
Mm-hmm.
And then whatever else he's grown, greens.
And I'm always like, oh, yours look so much better.
Oh, it's like I said, it's painful.
Always have tomato envy. Although I said last year we had a really great tomato season, but in general.
Tom is the only person I've ever met that made his own charcoal
Really?
for the grill. Yeah, he's like, yeah, I just made this.
He's
I'm like,
incredible.
what do you mean you just
Like
made
he burned it in an
He
oxygen
burned
powered
it-
chamber?
Thank you.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yes.
He has so
the
many
next time,
layers.
He's a multi-talented, multi-hyphenate grower.
He's a New England Renaissance man.
Man.
Yeah.
From milk to sea to garden.
OG. He's the OG.
He'll be coming up on Yard to Table.
Yes,
as
he
well.
will.
Oh, one time he gave me a jar of honey that he extracted from somebody's wall in New Canaan. He
Was
pulled
there
a
any-
hive out of somebody's house.
Sounds right.
And he got 10 gallons of honey. It was great wall honey.
Yeah.
If you're looking for good wall honey,
Now that is a Tom story. That is 100% a Tom story.
Marina,
I
if you're
love it.
listening, our former guest on the
Yeah.
podcast, don't listen to Wall Honey. That's that's a different show.
Oh, my friend, it has been such a joy
We had such a
having
great time.
you at the table with us.
We've taken up so much of your
Thank
time,
you.
but we really, really appreciate you coming and joining us at the table and telling us about your table and about your yard and about all the great community that you're building here.
And we're so happy to celebrate your incredible business and your beer. And we've had so many good times sharing a glass together and having a can right now together. And we're just so incredibly grateful for your friendship and for all the wonderful things that you're making.
Well, thank you very much. And you guys are so sweet.
Trevor, do you think it's a given that anyone who grows things is just like an incredible person?
Like Rich.
Like Rich.
That Rich, I tell you, he is.
Or so many of the guests
Yes.
that we've had on the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, here's another
awesome person,
awesome
amazing
person
human.
who started out with making things in their yard, growing things in their yard, cooking,
starting at home, doing a little
cooking,
brewing.
drinking, building
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. And has grown it into something that is really an anchor
Yes.
in that part of Bridgeport and is a really stand-up guy.
And what we didn't even talk about is just how much they've done within our community.
No, that's true. I think you're right. Basically, anybody that's on our podcast is amazing, including us.
According to us.
According to us,
We are-
everyone
we
is
are- we-
amazing, and we
we
are
are
amazing.
great.
That is true.
But we couldn't be luckier to
It
have
is, I mean, he's right up the road from us.
just right up the dirt
It's
road.
an amazing person, an amazing friend. His whole family, we just love them, and that's the whole reason why all this works.
And just another amazing person growing things in their yard that you get to meet on Yard to Table.
That's right.
Thanks everybody for listening with us.
But is it too early to have a beer?
We already did.
True. Good point.
Thanks for being with us and having a seat at our table.
Yard to Table is a production of Macrocosm Entertainment. Don't forget to rate us and subscribe anywhere you listen to podcasts. And for tips and more information, follow us on Instagram at Stonebrook House.